Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. It is the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station talk show on your hometown station. I'm Kyle Jennings. Shirley Miller's with me as always. Every first and third Thursday of the month, we get to talk about community outreach and different things going on here, especially in our community here in Santa Clarita. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, but you can also, we're streaming live at hometownstation.com. You can also download the free KHTS app as well. Shirley, we have this is a particular month, right? Yes.
February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And so we wanted to use today's show to bring light to, this is a serious topic. And as guest on our show today, we have Lieutenant Brenda Cambra. She is the Detective Bureau Lieutenant over at Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff Station. And we also have with us Linda Davies, representing the Domestic Violence Center here in Santa Clarita. And I wanted to thank both of you for taking time out to come to the show today to talk about this issue. A lot of people, when they think of domestic violence, they think more of adult situations, but really it is a problem with teenagers as well. And maybe you can shed light on Linda, what kind of issues that teens are facing in their relationships.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for having the Domestic Violence Center on the show today to talk about this. I mean, I think what even Brenda had alluded to earlier is that domestic violence is a family issue. It's not just an intimate partner issue. So what happens is that children see this growing up and they think that's what love is. So sad to say we see it more come out in teens, but we also see it bullying. Bullying is also very related to violence.
Are you referring to cyberbullying as well?
Cyberbullying as well, but actually the bullying in the schools where there's really definite, anytime that there is a power and control relationship or an aggressor against someone, we're talking about violence. But really they have to be in a relationship for it to be domestic violence. So, but the kids will see it in their homes, and then when they get into relationships, that's all they know. And so, and I think we also, in our country, you figure 1 in 3 teens will experience domestic violence.
That's pretty high figures.
It's really high.
1 out of 3.
And it's 10.5 million across our nation. Okay, so that's very big too.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
When you say 1 in 3, is that like a repeated thing that or is it like, does that count as like a one-time thing, which it shouldn't happen anyway, but I'm just wondering, is that like a
it's a one thing? No, I would say it's a one. It could be the slap, the punch, the push.
Gotcha, okay.
Or it could be the isolation, any kind of, I think the thing that's really hard about teen, for me, what I've always thought about is think how popular Twilight was, okay? And actually Edward was a stalker.
That's true.
Okay. And so girls are really wanting to be loved and cared for, and a lot of times that's what a domestic violence situation looks like. And there's a line that gets crossed, where so the line really is, oh, he really loves me because he wants to know where I am all the time. Oh, but wait a minute, he doesn't want me with my friends, so that's on the other side of the line. Or I shouldn't hang out with my own family. He gets jealous. He loves me. He's jealous. But the fact is, he texts me all day to know where I am. A lot of times girls will think in the beginning that that really is somebody who cares for them, and you've got the pressure of wanting to have a boyfriend when you're in school. And that is really red flags to it being an abusive relationship, a power and control relationship at this age, which is dangerous.
Now, before we go any further, Kyle, is it possible we have that public service announcement to play?
It was an accident. He doesn't mean it. It's my fault. It's not easy to see the signs of it starting. Everything happens so fast these days, I barely have time to sit down. He was so sweet and charismatic. At first. Sure, where I'm at now, I see all the warning signs. They were always there, standing over my shoulder, screaming, "Snap out of it!" But did I listen? No. I was just scared that a boy took interest in me. He would always surprise me, meet up with me where he got a chance, try to steal me away to have me for himself. I thought, sweet, that he wants me. I always said, no, that would never happen to me. I'm way too young for that. I used to be the sensible friend, the one everyone went to for guidance. But once he came into my life, I said goodbye to my friends, my family, my whole life. All because he supposedly loved me. I thought his jealousy was harmless at first. Later, it reached the point of me getting nervous every time I made eye contact with someone other than him. Everyone said they didn't like him, always telling me how they had a funny feeling about him, that something wasn't right. And of course, each time someone tried to get through to me, I defended him. I defended the man I was afraid of most when he should have been my knight in shining armor. Somehow I was lucky enough to have someone to see the signs before anyone else did, including me. Unfortunately, that's not a common situation for most. 33% of those victimized in an abusive relationship actually say something. No one has the right to hurt you. You don't deserve to be punished for a wrong you never committed. Open your eyes and see the warning signs. Speak up. It can change the course of your future.
AM 1220 KHTS. That was a teen dating abuse PSA that Shirley was able to get to me.
So it talks in there about some of the signs. What kind of signs do parents or friends should they be looking for?
Well, Shirley, thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming.
I believe that if you have someone who's dating and they suddenly stop hanging out with their friends, or they notice that their boyfriend or girlfriend is constantly texting, asking where they are, telling them what they can and can't do, that would be a red flag, that something's wrong. Certainly someone who suddenly shows up with injuries that the explanations don't sound very plausible when you add them all together, that might be a sign.
Right. So it shows that if they're becoming more socially isolated, where all of a sudden maybe they used to hang out with their girlfriends and they're not doing that anymore, and they're just kind of drawing away. So isolating, that's a sign, as well as a new boyfriend, girlfriend who's constantly texting all the time. And what do you, now at your in your detective bureau, Lieutenant Canberra, do you have a team that handle any reports that are made physical abuse and dating relationships? Which team in your detective bureau handles those cases?
Well, Shirley, we do get a few reports of dating abuse among teens and young adults, and that is handled by our COBRA team because they handle all juvenile suspects and suspects under the age of 21. So that is where they would be assigned. Now, I do notice that there are few reports of this type of abuse. I tend to think that teens tell their friends about these things, and then among their friends, they try to solve their problems themselves without realizing that they could get either parental help or law enforcement help.
Right. I agree with you. I think that there is a lot of cases, probably here in the Santa Clarita Valley, where teens are in abusive relationships and maybe they just don't know where to turn or what steps that they can take. And the first thing they think of is not making a report at the sheriff's station.
Well, I don't believe that they realize how dangerous it can be.
Right.
And so they believe that this is a problem they can solve themselves. And only after a long time they come to realize, wait, I can't solve this problem.
I think the other thing, too, though, is that we do not teach healthy relationships in our health classes. Okay, that's a really important thing. And I know that the Senate has tried to put some curriculum in, and it has not been approved. So that's something else that the Domestic Violence Center is trying to do, at least at the high school level, is to get into health classes, because we have a program called In Touch with Teens, and it actually is a core competency for health classes, but it does talk about, it's all about healthy relationships. That's the other thing. Kids don't want to be thinking about the fact that they're in a domestic violence situation. That sounds like horrific, right? So we have to talk to people about how do you have a healthy relationship.
Right,
That's what people don't know. And so one of our things that we do is we're calling ourselves Healthy Connections now for our teen program. We have relationship coaches that are at the Domestic Violence Center that people can call. They're meeting 2 really great young people in the schools right now. We're at Saugus. We've done small presentations. We're at Golden Valley. And we're getting into each one of the schools now to be able to address this issue and to also be able to say to kids, hey, these are teens that you can talk to that have had. I mean, one of our women that goes into the schools had a teen dating relationship that did turn abusive. And she was very isolated. And she's out of that now and in a healthy relationship. And she can be someone they connect with. We also have a young man now that goes in as well with her. So we do sort of a tag team with them. And that's been helpful. And we have been getting some teen calls. One thing is the schools do refer. We go out to the schools and meet with the counselors. And the schools have referred several young women to us. You got to remember that a teenager can get a restraining order without telling her parents at the age of 13.
Oh, okay, I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, that's very important because they can come to us. We don't have to report it. It goes to the schools. So what the schools have done when we've had to do this is that they've made sure that those 2 kids are not in the same classrooms. They make sure they don't end the calls at the same time. The school really works like any elementary school would do with a parent who had a restraining order with the child. They work with us around that issue. So we are really opening up, and I think that this year the other thing we've done is with the Sheriff's Department and with the city is to put together a program called Stop the Silence, Stand Up Against Violence, and we've done quarterly trainings for the city, and we're going to be having another one on April 12th, which is be an upstander, not a bystander, because it's really about your friends helping you when they hear it, that it's not okay, and being able to know that there are resources out there. I don't think a teen, unless we're talking about really an abuse situation, is probably going to reach out to the Sheriff's Department because their friends may, right now we know for a fact, right, that when a grown woman who's in an abusive relationship gets a restraining order or calls the sheriffs or does an emergency protective order, that his family is all over her about the fact, how could you get him arrested? How could you do this? So think about peer pressure. When you've got kids who say maybe he's on a sports team or maybe he's in some club and he's the one who's doing this to you, his friends are going to give her
That's the thing. Kids talk, kids gossip, and then all of a sudden this girl's going to find herself shunned in the hallways at high school. It is a touchy matter, but I really like the fact that you have this education program going on in the high schools,
Absolutely.
Defining what is a healthy what is an abusive relationship, because depending the kind of environment that kids are raised in, maybe they don't know what a healthy relationship is. Maybe they see dad talk to mom in a very derogatory manner all the time, or maybe even see physical abuse within the home. So I think it's important to let them know what is healthy.
And think about media. I mean, there's a stat that says like our teens will see like in a course of like a month or something like 1,000 some odd hookups by people who just met. And rarely do they see healthy sort of sexual relationships or innuendos on
what
TV.
What is really love?
Yeah, with married couples or with people that have been dating for a long time. So we give a message out there. And girls are given a message all the time about, look good for a guy.
Right.
And if you're not somebody if you don't have a boyfriend, you're not a whole person. And that's really what we have to teach our young girls, that they are whole people. And we have a dater's Bill of Rights also here.
Let's take a break.
Okay.
We got bills to pay. Okay.
So we're going to
take a quick break, and we're going to talk more with more about this, about the teen dating abuse and different things going on here in the Santa Clarita Valley and different programs that the Domestic Violence Center has as well. This is the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Talk Show on AM 1220 KHTS. Santa Clarita's hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. This is the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Talk Show on AM 1220 KHTS. We have Lieutenant Cambra. I just blew it. I blew it. I blew it. I even wrote it down phonetically.
Did you?
I did.
Well, I'm surprised because you even got Heishuber right that
I know.
one time. I thought for sure you were going to mispronounce his name.
I blew it. I got too confident. And then we also have Linda Davies from the Domestic Violence Center of Santa Clarita. And we're talking about teen dating abuse. It's Teen Dating Abuse Month this year.
It's Teen
month,
Dating Violence Awareness Month.
Yes.
It's
encouraging it.
Yes, we're not encouraging it. Holy cow.
No encouragement.
Good grief. I need to write more things down. Good go.
And right before we went on the commercial break, I think Linda was going to tell us about there's a dater's Bill of Rights?
Yeah, there's a Dater's Bill of Rights that actually what it does say here is that, and this is true for teens to really remember this, and anyone, I think equally, grown-up women and men.
We always tend to, maybe because of the stories we see in the media and stuff like that, but this happens for both males and females. So we need to keep that in mind. We're not just telling young teenage girls about this. We're also telling young teenage boys about this as well.
Yes,
but I just wanted to make sure that was clear.
Well, as a man, that was a very good thing to tell us. Okay. But actually, you're absolutely right about that. We do see it just doesn't happen as much, so we tend to always look at the female side.
Yes.
So because 1 in 33 men actually admit that they have been abused, and I'm sure that those stats are low because of the embarrassment of it.
Yeah, it's one thing because I assume that, don't tell me if I'm wrong, but females don't do it because they're embarrassed by it. For the most part, maybe I don't know. Is there a bit of embarrassment?
No, it's super shame.
Oh, okay.
That's the big deal. So there's a lot of. That's the thing about any kind of abuse, and this would be true of teens as well. Is that women, the person who gets abused, whether male or female, feels that they have caused the problem. By the time that abuser, that's his whole MO, is with power and control, is that no one else is going to love you but me. No one's going to put up with you but me. You caused all this. That's what comes to us. Is the feeling that there's something wrong with me. Right. And for a teenager, it would be if he can't be with me or I can't be with him, he can't love me the way that I need to be loved, then no one will. So they accept certain behaviors for that.
Yeah, it's a low self-esteem issue
and
too.
It gets worse.
Because when you have someone who's constantly berating you all the time and then they make you feel like, well, no one else is going to want you. And somehow there's some girls that they just don't want to be alone. They feel like they have to have someone in their life, whether that person is good for them or not.
And at 14, that's when a lot of this behavior will begin because of all the hormones, all of the sort of the pubescent, adolescent stuff that goes on, and junior high. I mean, think about it. Did anybody really feel like anyone was going to like them in junior high? All right, so you get some
the awkward stage, the braces, the glasses,
right, the braces, right. So all that stuff. So I think that and they aren't feeling very confident at that age. So that's another reason where that's a very susceptible time for it. But what women and young girls need to think about is that you have a right to refuse a date without feeling guilty. Like you don't have to go out with somebody just because he asked you. And I think all of us might have been caught in that sometime, feeling like you're going to hurt somebody's feelings.
Just FYI, I got turned down for dates all the time in high school. So, it happens all the time. So, don't get your feelings hurt.
Okay, for that confession, move on.
Yeah, right. I have a right to always be treated with respect, but you have to know what that is for yourself. That's where you really want to kind of understand, like, who you are as a person, and sometimes you're not there yet as a young girl or a young boy. You don't know. You're still trying to your peers are kind of defining you, I think, at this time. You have a right to have your privacy. You have a right to refuse sex or affection at any time. We've been in groups with kids where somebody would say, well, we'd ask the question, well, if somebody took you out to dinner, does that mean that you would have to have sex with him? And sometimes they would say, yes, it does.
Or if they buy you some expensive piece of jewelry.
Right, and it doesn't mean that. Also, the idea of
I'm getting sick to my stomach right now.
Okay, but have you gone, say you're kissing someone, and then all of a sudden, you're going like, I don't know if they call it anymore. We used to call it like second base or whatever, right?
He has a young daughter, so he's probably just getting nervous thinking about
my stomach is turning right now.
Okay, but then sometimes what girls have said in our classes too is that, well, I've gone that far, I might as well just go all the way. And that's not true. People have to respect that that sexual relationship, and that is not, you don't have to say yes to those things. I have rights to have friends and be with my friends. I have a right to have equal relationship with my partner. That's another thing for girls to understand, is that it's not always doing what he likes to do. And if you have an opinion, your opinion is valued, and you need to be with somebody who listens to you as well as you listen to them. So it's an equal thing. So I have the right to say no at any time. I have the right to change goals whenever I want to. I have the right not to be physically and emotionally hurt. I have the right to end a relationship. And I think these are things that we need to instill in our children and in our teens. And I think it's just in our young people, it's so much about everybody gets like, that whole thing about getting girl crazy or getting boy crazy because of the hormones. So it's like, who's going to notice me? Who is it? And sometimes I think we drop our standards when we're younger because we really want to have a boyfriend. And so they really, that's the thing I think that parents have to really understand, is that this is a real relationship. Your kids are having real feelings. So it's not something to sort of disregard or not want to hear about or disrespect. It's something that you need to make the time for. And on our website, dvc-scv.org, we do have a parent guide to teen dating, so that you could kind of read that through and figure out, like, how do you want to approach your child? And you got to approach your child as a friend. You can't come on like they're doing something wrong, because what's happening is actually kind of natural, only they're running into people that have had experiences in their own homes that actually taught them a very, very angry way to love somebody.
So that would be a great resource for parents. And you said that's on your website. Mm-hmm. It's what is your website again?
It's dvc-scv.org.
Okay. Let me see if I got that right. dvc-scv.org. Okay. So a great resource for parents there in talking to your teens about this issue. And Lieutenant Canberra, during the break, you mentioned something interesting about annoying phone calls.
Yes, I think that perhaps sometimes the parents are probably not aware until there's an annoying phone call issue. We do get a lot of annoying phone call reports at the station.
Okay.
And I think that one of the things that can happen is, the breaking up with somebody is one of the most dangerous times in a abusive relationship.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that will result in numerous calls, call after call after call. And a lot of times someone will avoid the phone calls for a while, but then they'll pick one up. And essentially, the abuser learns, it takes me 45 phone calls and then she'll answer. And so every time someone answers after repeated phone calls that they've ignored, mm-hmm. you're just training them out to continue to call, to go farther and farther. But This is a crime, to continue to call someone when it's obvious they don't want to answer. Mm-hmm. And you can make a police report. And we do look into that. And we do talk to the person who's making the phone calls, if we can, as long as we can get a hold of them, and try and get them to stop. Or we try and take the case to the district attorney and file it if we have mm-hmm. enough evidence.
Right. And with all of the teens having cell phones now, a lot of the plans allow parents to take a role, maybe, block numbers on there to help their teen out. Do you recommend doing that?
Yes, I think that's a good idea. And I've also heard another thing where if you really are stuck in this problem, and I've heard a good recommendation to go and get another phone. That way you don't have to answer that phone, but you also don't have to block those calls. You just go get another phone, start up again without referring.
I see.
Does the detectives take into consideration like text messages as well, if they send 100 text messages in an hour?
Absolutely. Those would also be considered
annoying type of. Okay.
Yeah.
And those can also be used to get a restraining order.
Okay.
Right. And even when cell phone messages, text messages are deleted, the detectives do have a way to bring those back.
So I wanted to ask before we wrap up here, what one bit of advice, I know you have, Linda has like 1,000 papers in front of her.
She's full of
I want to start with
resources.
Lieutenant, what would you give advice to parents with teenagers about this issue? What advice can you give to parents?
My advice to parents of teenagers is to stay in their lives, to make efforts to know who their friends are. If you can, meet their friends' parents, to be involved enough to know who your child is hanging out with, and also to have a certain level of rules. Linda says that you need to talk to your child as a friend, But reality is you're a parent. You can't just be their friend. You do have to make rules that are designed to help them grow into a healthy future.
And Linda, same question. What bit of advice can you give to parents dealing with
Well, when I said the
this?
thing about friendship, I think I think that parents can come down hard when their kids are in relationships, and they've got to, sometimes rules are very important. You're right, a structure in a child's life is important, and they know that you care. But I also think that you have to allow a space where you can let them tell you the stuff that really is uncomfortable for you to hear. You know what I mean? And a lot of times,
and not react to it.
And not react to
Just
it
listen
because
calmly.
they need you, and they need you, and then you come back with, so that whole active listening thing, and just really then repeat back things and try to help them solve that problem too. Because one of the things I think we do with people, kids, and I know this from years of working with young children, is when we overreact to something, they don't learn the lesson. Okay,
Well,
so
yeah.
Plus they shut down,
and
then
they're
they
afraid to tell us.
and then they're afraid to tell us. And we need to have an open communication about this. And you have to realize that they are venturing into, for the first time in their lives, whether we like it or not, into the realm of loving somebody else, moving away from you. That's super scary for parents. And none of us want to think of our kids as being sexually active. I mean, I remember my daughter, like when she was in her late 20s. I'm sure, no, she's married then, so I can't go there. Maybe she was like 22, and I was like saying to she was playing some game, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I bet she's still a friend. And who the heck knows, and does it really matter?
You're getting Kyle's stomach starting.
Yeah,
to
my 3-year-old daughter. I don't want to think about this.
But we have to really look at what's
absolutely.
our issues, and what is the world that they've entered into, and how do we allow them to be safe in the world that they're entering into, and I think that, and the other thing I want to give is the teen hotline. There is a hotline that you can call that is an anonymous hotline, and it's 866-331-9477. Again, that's 866-331-9477. And then also there is a text that will get you help. Somebody will text you back, so if you don't want to make the call, you just text into your phone 22522. So it's 22522, and that will actually get somebody to come back to you from an organization called Love is Respect. And they do a lot of teen work. They're a great resource for people, for parents. So it's called Love is Respect. And then the other thing I'm talking about is our Divert website.
Yes.
Okay. We have, the sheriff has invited a number of agencies together to talk about how we can offer resources to young and old in our community around domestic violence, around mental health issues, around the issue of suicide, counseling, those types of things, right?
And what's great about the Divert website is it basically takes all of the resources that are available in Santa Clarita Valley and puts it under one umbrella. It's like a one-stop shop. Instead of going to the website for this or for that, you go to the Divert website, and everything's there. Very user-friendly.
It really is. And so that is Santa-Clarita.com/divert.
Okay, maybe one more time for that in case anyone didn't get it.
I think if you even go on and go divert, it'll pop up. There is, because we went there yesterday to look at something, and it'll pop up down below as Santa Clarita.
So Divert, as in DIVERT, is the name of the program.
And that stands for Domestic Intervention Violence Education Resource Team.
Okay, I'm going to quiz you on that. What was
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
I have to read it myself because I get a little crazy about it too. But all the resources that we are talking about today are resources that we are providing at the schools. We are meeting with guidance counselors. Guidance counselors have called us around kids that need to get restraining orders. We have walked kids through that whole process. We've gone to court with them, and so that is available, and it's available with people that have been trained to work with youth.
Awesome stuff. Thank you guys for coming on. I think this is one of the most important subjects that people need to hear about, and I'm glad we're talking about it. And thank you guys for coming on.
And
Appreciate it.
if anyone missed the show today, there will be later available on your website.
Yeah, we're going to post the podcast for sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you guys.
Excellent.
Thank you guys for coming
so
on.
much for coming today.
All right. Thank you so much for having us.
This has been the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Talk Show on AM 1220 KHTS.